What's going on, guys? Vital Syntax here, and I've got some more Battlefield 4 rumors that came out of the recent EA/EB Games showcase that happened in Australia the other day, and they confirmed some new information, but there isn't really anything groundbreaking. But there are some things that I wanted to talk about that they talked about during this showcase in Australia. So the first thing is in regards to the single player. This is some of the stuff we've already heard, but they've admitted that single player in Battlefield 3 was something that was lacking, and that's something they definitely want to improve on. So you can expect that the Battlefield 4 single player campaign is going to be much stronger and a much more important part of the Battlefield experience. I mean, in my opinion, Battlefield 3 wasn't all that bad, but it definitely could have been better in a lot of areas. And they're trying to improve on the storyline and improve on the characters, give them more emotion. Obviously, with the new graphics and the new engine with Frostbite 3, they're able to improve on some of the character animations, some of the facial animations, and make the characters feel more lively and more emotional, which is going to be awesome. And they're also improving the size and scale of the single player. They're making the maps and the missions and the areas that you play out less linear, a lot more open and wide areas that allow you to choose the direction that you want to take the objectives. You don't have to, go down this street, take a right, and then take a left and go up these stairs. Here's where you are, and this is where you need to get to. Figure out how to get there, and along your way, it's going to be different when you play the game different times. It'll allow you a little bit more replayability. And another thing they're doing is with cutscenes, they're actually acting them out on a soundstage like you would do in a movie or a 3D animation movie or something like that. So the cutscenes in general should be a lot more cinematic and allow for a little bit more in-depth storytelling. Next is the multiplayer. So some of the things we already know is that they kind of confirmed at the EB event was that Battlelog is returning for PC, but it's also going to be integrated into the game more closely. So it looks like there's the ability to press either backspace on a keyboard or maybe select on the joystick, controller with an Xbox or a PlayStation system, and bring Battlelog up in-game. That way you don't have to either completely close the game like you did on the PC, or that way you actually have access to the Battlelog features like viewing stats, viewing friends, viewing different Battlelog updates in-game, and that's a kind of a cool improvement. That way you don't have to completely leave the game. Obviously, Commander Mode is something we've already learned about, but they talked about the difference between Commander Mode on the tablet and a Commander Mode in-game running on, a console or running on a PC, and there are going to be differences. So the tablet version is a little bit dumbed down. You're not going to have access to the live video feed where you can see actual other players on your team in the bottom left corner of your screen, but for the most part, you should still be able to have access to all of the different advantages that you get from playing as a commander. But it seems like if you want the full experience and if you're in like a competitive scenario, it's the best option to play on a PC or a console where you have full control. Obviously, you're going to be a little more accurate with your calling in of different strikes and stuff because you're not using a touch interface, which can be somewhat inaccurate. Next is in regards to destruction, which is something that everybody kind of complained that with Battlefield Bad Company 2, the destruction was better than Battlefield 3. And the other question that comes up is, well, if now you have this Levolution concept, and they showed the idea of bringing down an entire skyscraper with the Siege of Shanghai map, they've confirmed that you're not going to be able to take down every building. But they are improving significantly from Battlefield 3, and the destruction is going to be much more similar to Battlefield Bad Company 2, where you can take down a lot of the buildings in the game, but you're not going to be able to completely level or destroy every building on the map and it makes sense because that would really change the map, and there's some design decisions that they've made that are specifically, kind of dictated by the layout of the map, and if you could completely level the entire map, it would kind of ruin that experience. So there's certain buildings that you're not going to be able to take down, but there's going to be a lot more than we had access to in Battlefield 3. They also talked about the possibility of bringing back the ability to take out a building that, for example, houses an MCOM station in the rush game mode. Like in Battlefield Bad Company 2, if you took out a building that, an MCOM station was inside of, that MCOM station would be destroyed. And in some cases, I think that's a cool idea, but I also don't like it in other cases because you could sit maybe back in the back of your map or in your spawn point with a tank or a rocket launcher or something like that and take out a building without actually having to push up into, an MCOM and actually take the location. I remember actually with Battlefield Bad Company 2 as well, you could take out MCOM stations with C4. You did enough damage to the actual MCOM station, you wouldn't even have to arm it up. That's something they might bring back from Battlefield Bad Company 2. I personally don't like really either of those ideas, but it's not necessarily something that they've confirmed quite yet. yet. Another really cool concept is now you'll be able to cut the power to certain indoor parts of different maps that you can essentially allow for the use of darkness, or for example, disable the elevator on the Siege of Shanghai map or other maps. It's kind of changing the dynamics of a map. You know, if you're in like an underground area below the subway or something, and you're able to find the power station, cut off the power to that metro station, it would essentially put a lot more emphasis on flash suppressors, trying to hide your location, you know, in a dark environment. You know, night vision, laser sights, flashlights. There's a bunch of dynamics that would come to the table with you know, the ability to cut out the lights or have a really true dark environment. And I think that'd be really cool if they had some really, really dark maps in general. I mean, that's something that everybody has always requested, and when they bring it to us, it's, you know, not always as dark as people would like it. So another thing that they talked about was that Siege of Shanghai, the map that we saw at E3, was actually a medium-sized map. It's not even that big in comparison to some of the maps we will see later on, which is actually kind of surprising because Siege of Shanghai to me felt like a fairly large map. Like, it didn't feel like Firestorm. It didn't feel one of the massive maps, but it felt like a very large map in comparison to the Battlefield 3. I would have put it up there on the larger end of Battlefield 3 maps. So if this is a medium-sized map, you know, the large maps are going to be really big, and hopefully the small maps aren't going to be too small, because I'm personally not a huge fan of those really, really small maps like Operation Metro, especially in a 64-player environment. And for them to really take full advantage of both the next-gen consoles, PCs, and just move Battlefield forward to a more larger-based engagement game, I think it's better that they bring big maps. That way you're not having something like Operation Metro on 64 players, which really isn't necessarily the fan favorite map, but it's the fan most played map because it is the fastest way to level up. It's essentially a way of boosting your stats, increasing your score per minute, leveling up faster. And that's another thing that people are kind of concerned about, because they have this second Assault DLC, which they've already announced, which is going to be a downloadable content for Battlefield 4. It's coming out first on Xbox One, which kind of sucks, but it will be available on the other platforms later. And they haven't announced if the other DLCs are going to be available on Xbox One yet, first yet. So it might just be this one Second Assault DLC. But the Second Assault DLC is essentially the ability to bring back Battlefield 3 maps to Battlefield 4 fan favorite maps. You know, things like Caspian Border, Operation Firestorm, Operation Metro, Karg Island. There's a lot of fan favorite maps, and Operation Metro is not necessarily the favorite map, but it's definitely the most played map. And I'm kind of worried that if they did bring that map, they would bring it back because it had more players, not necessarily because people actually liked it, because it's kind of, you either love it or hate it, and for me, I hate it just because it's not really a fun map for me to play in a large player base. Yeah, if you're playing 24 players or maybe even 32 players, it can be pretty fun. But I would hope that Battlefield is pushing that higher player count, because I like the feeling of playing 64 players. I like that feeling of, you know, a real war. And if you get smaller and smaller player counts, then that can change some things. The last thing I wanted to mention was in regards to the new game modes that are going to be coming out with Battlefield 4. One of them specifically called Elimination, which we saw in the files that came out of the pre-alpha. And essentially there's a couple new game modes, like the playground game mode, which people are speculating that it's some ability to test out new weapons, test out vehicles before you're in actual multiplayer match, which would be really nice. But also this elimination game mode, which seems like it might be a one life, last man standing type of scenario, where if you die you have to wait till the next round. You know, something like Search and Destroy from Call of Duty, or something like the Terrorist/Counter-Terrorist from Counter-Strike. Something like that, where it's more of a focus on staying alive rather than, you know, pushing up and capturing objectives. And I think that would be a really welcome change to Battlefield. I would really love to see an elimination type of game mode for Battlefield 4, and it seems like we're going to have something like that. But we'll have to wait a little bit longer till they confirm that. So anyway, thanks for watching the video. This has been the latest news and rumors for Battlefield 4. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to leave a like or a favorite. And if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe, because I do videos like this almost every day. I'm going to be gone for almost a week coming up this weekend and week, because I have some family coming into town. But I'll see you guys in a couple days. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.